Hey guys, Jason here. So, what if some of the ancient gods weren't actually gods at all? Now, before everybody loses their mind, I'm not saying every god was just some guy in a fancy hat who survived the flood. That is way, way, way too easy. It flattens everything. But think about it. Think about it just for a second. So, imagine a world is destroyed completely. I mean, the coast is gone, the fields are ruined, entire communities disappear, right? Trade routes collapse. Nobody knows what season it is anymore because the people who kept the calendar are all dead. The tools are broken, the old government is gone, the stories are basically all you have left. And then one day, people begin to arrive, right? Maybe they come by boat, maybe they come down from the mountains. Maybe they've been living somewhere protected. Who knows? They know how to preserve seeds, though, and they know how to redirect water. They understand stonework, astronomy, medicine, measurement, and law. Now, to us, that sounds like specialists, but to a shattered population, it would actually look like the gods had returned. Now, that's the thing we forget. You don't have to be supernatural to become supernatural in someone else's memory. You only have to know what everybody else has forgotten. Now, that is a massive difference, right? If you showed up after a civilizational collapse with antibiotics, solar panels, maps, and the ability to predict an eclipse, I mean, how long would it take before stories started growing around you? I mean, would it be one generation? Would it be two? Who knows? But it would happen. Your clothing, it would become sacred, and your tools would be considered, magical objects. Your vehicle becomes a chariot, a dragon, a shining boat, or even a creature from the sea. Your knowledge is beyond what they have, and your homeland becomes, like a heaven, right? An island beyond the horizon, a mountain of the gods, or even a kingdom beneath the water. And you become more than human because ordinary humanity can no longer explain you. You know, a navigator would become a sea god. An astronomer becomes a lord of the sky. Even a person wearing, the fish-shaped ceremonial cloak becomes an actual fish being. And the survivors, well, they all become immortal. Not because people were actually stupid, because memory under pressure changes the shape. I mean, think about it. We do this now, right? We mythologize people while they're actually still alive. We clean up their stories. We exaggerate their wisdom. We even erase their failures and turn them into actual symbols. So imagine what happens after 500 years with no photos, no recordings, and no written archive that survives that would actually be fully intact. This is why the ancient culture bringers super fascinates me. You know, Awanas emerges from the sea and actually teaches civilization. The Apkallu brings sacred knowledge, and Thoth is associated with writing and measurement. Prometheus gives humanity fire and the technical possibility. Manu carries life and knowledge through catastrophe, and Quetzalcoatl becomes tied to order, calendars, and civilizing instructions. Now, these are not identical stories, and I'm not pretending that they are, but they keep circling around the same strange memory, right? After disorder, knowledge arrives from outside of ordinary society. Now, that really does matter. Outside ordinary society. The teacher comes from the sea, the sky, the mountain, the cave, the wilderness, the divine realm, somewhere beyond the known edge. Now ask yourself why, right? Maybe because they were genuinely non-human, or maybe because they came from another culture, or maybe because they were survivors of an earlier world, or maybe all three possibilities became tangled together over thousands and thousands of years. And honestly, that's where this gets much more interesting than the cheap version of Ancient Aliens, right? Because the question isn't simply, were the gods extraterrestrials? The better question is actually what kind of real encounter becomes a god story, right? That encounter could be technological, it could be spiritual, it could even be political. It could involve survivors with knowledge, it could involve altered states even. It could even involve something we don't even have a category for. I don't know. But I know the clean story we're usually given is way, way, way too clean. Civilization didn't just move upward in one smooth line. It broke. And then it restarted. It borrowed. It forgot. It recovered. It reassembled itself from the pieces. And whoever carried those pieces across the break would have seemed impossible. So here's the line that I actually keep coming back to. The first gods may not have created humanity. They may have found us in the ruins. And that changes the entire emotional weight of myths. Suddenly the stories aren't about beings arriving to make the world from nothing. They're about teachers stepping into the aftermath of something terrible and helping a remnant begin again. But then comes the bigger mystery, right? Even if some gods were survivors, well, what were they survivors of? And where did they get the knowledge that made the rest of humanity kneel? Some questions for your mind. Thanks for listening. Namaste.